What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it always hugely helps out our channel, and it truly does. Yesterday we did have some members. The membership is a bit all over the place at the minute. I don't know why. Members keep disappearing then coming back. YouTube system, man, let me tell you. But Libby Wheeler, thank you so much. Inwi Menelda and Kyle Lombardo. If I got any of your names wrong, I do apologize. You know what I'm like with names. I do try my best and, Google them beforehand, but sometimes it's a bit difficult. There's multiple pronunciations, so do excuse me. Anyway, once again, thank you for your love, your time, and your support, and let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Haruta. Would I be the arsehole if I turned in a group of doctors that initially refused to treat me for a life-threatening illness because they refused to believe it was possible for me to have it? Okay, so for context, I am a disabled military vet from my time spent overseas. 36-year-old female. I rely on the treatment from the VA systems for my healthcare, which in my personal experiences has always been wonderful in my area. A few weeks ago, I was rushed to the ER with what was the worst head pain I've ever felt, and it come on in an instant. CT ended up being clear and it was diagnosed as a migraine. The next day is when hell started for me. Entered 2 weeks of near constant agonizing pain, a severely swollen left temple, bad jaw pain, my vision in my left eye was getting worse and I was seeing double, and there were other symptoms stacked on top of those. I had been requesting to be seen immediately by my GP. I have most of these requests backed up in emails and was blown off. I had a strong hunch at what was wrong with me, even though, according to the wise Dr. Google, not supposed to get temporal arteritis until at least age 50. I just wanted to be taken seriously because I know my body. I feel I have a good grasp on my personal pain levels because of injuries I've suffered in the military, and this was the worst pain I've ever experienced by leaps and bounds, and it never relented. Finally, my GP saw me and instantly changed their tune. To start treatment, I was to get a biopsy of my left temporal artery. The ENT doctor called me to set an appointment up, only he wouldn't. He told me I had an actual 0% chance of having this, and I was wasting mine and theirs if I came because I was too young. He made it clear that he was not entertaining the idea of seeing me at all, and ended the phone call. It took another 24 hours of fights, emails and phone calls and being treated like crap to get the biopsy set up for the following morning. Hey, guess what? I freaking have it. I am being treated for it, but I have suffered permanent vision loss in my left eye because of the delay in treatment, let alone what else because I haven't even been fully informed on the extent of this disease yet. I want accountability. I want this drastic mistake to be learned from and other people not to suffer my same type of treatment. Only people around me are telling me my anger is too much, that I would be an arsehole if I went after the doctors' careers. Really? Looking for the judgment so I can make sense of all this and make a decision. And oh yeah, I would have died as a result of this remaining untreated, and it could have happened at any time. So that's what people are basing their opinion on. You didn't die, they ended up saving your life. It could have been worse. What's your thoughts? And before we go to the comments, I always like to do a little bit of self-education. I've never heard of temporal arteritis, so I thought I'd just do a quick look up, and you can join me if you want to. Temporal arteritis, giant cell arteritis, is where the arteries, particularly those at the side of the head, the temples, become inflamed. It's serious and needs urgent treatment. Symptoms of the temporal arteritis are frequent severe headaches, pain and tenderness over the temples, jaw pain while eating and talking, and vision problems such as double vision or loss of vision or one in both eyes. And then it says, it can lead to serious problems like stroke and blindness if not treated quickly. And that was from the NHS website, by the way. And no, you're not going to be the arsehole in this situation because these people risked your life. Yeah, people that say, they saved your life and after you had to fight tooth and nail to get a diagnosis, which is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, people can make mistakes and all this kind of thing, but it almost sounds like they were purposely negligent in this situation. And you've lost sight in one of your eyes because of it. I'd love to hear an opinion from that doctor after the fact. Now he said, oh no, you have to be over this age to have that. And now he's seen it. And I'd love to know his thoughts now. But they were unprofessional in this instance, and I think they deserve to be called out for it. Absolutely not the arsehole. And Natural Sneak says, not the arsehole. Seriously, doctors need to stop acting like females don't know what they are talking about. You know your body, and you knew something was wrong. Edit, because many of you have come at me. I'm not gatekeeping this. Yes, I'm aware it happens to males. Again, historically, doctors ignore women. Stop coming at me. And Ingenious Scone says, not the arsehole. Report them, make noise, hold them accountable. You're extremely lucky to have come out of this alive, but the next person may not be. I'm really sorry this happened to you. I'm glad you caught it and made them listen, and I hope the treatment is as effective and painless as possible. Best wishes for your recovery. And Silver says, not the arsehole. Report them and sue their unprofessional nuts. And California Jade says, so how many women do they need to ignore before it's right to go off on someone's career? And in actuality, it probably just make their liability insurance go up, not take away their license. Not the arsehole. Go ahead and sue. And Double Reindeer says, get a medical malpractice lawyer, not an ambulance chaser. Get a proper lawyer. And Technicolor Dream says, not the arsehole. Doctors are absolutely trained to think horses, not zebras. But you also don't decide that the black and white striped animal with 4 hooves and a short spiky mane and terrible disposition is a horse just because zebras don't live in the area. It sucks to make a mistake, but they need to be reported. They probably won't lose their careers, but they will receive a reprimand and notation on their records. And it might save someone down the line as the details of your case are circulated. You're absolutely right to report this and keep following up. You may be sparing someone else down the line. And we'll have one more from Paradigm 11381 saying, not the arsehole. People commenting you didn't die, but you lost your eye to their medical incompetence. Those same people would react the same way you are if it had happened to them. You need to get some consults with lawyers and at a minimum report them to your state's medical board. If these doctors are part of a VA hospital, I would also contact the hospital to see what your options are, but contact your own lawyers prior to doing. And now we'll move on to the next story. And this next story comes from Odd Explanation 4180. Am I the arsehole for getting upset at my boyfriend for constantly eating my food? My boyfriend 22 and I, 24 male, have been dating for a little over a year now. In general, we have a pretty good relationship with hardly any major problems, except for one on my end. He is constantly eating my food. We don't live together and work hectic schedules. We eat out a lot, we cook too, but this problem isn't present when we eat in. Well, the guy will literally eat his food and help himself to mine. He won't ask me, he won't even look at me, but will just reach on my plate and start eating. I was feeling nauseous a couple of weeks ago when we went out for burgers, so I took the whole thing home. A few hours pass and I'm feeling better and I try and eat. He literally grabs it from my plate and just starts eating it. After 4 of his bites, it was more than halfway gone. He does this with drinks as well and will drink anything I have with me. My mum gave me an expensive bar of chocolate that I was saving and he went to my dresser and opened it and ate half. It's driving me crazy that I can't ever fully have a meal or any kind of treats to myself because he wants to eat it as well. I talked to him about it and I'm met with, you're overreacting, it's not a big deal, I thought we shared stuff. Last weekend we went to the movies and I ordered some snacks and a large drink. He ordered some snacks and a medium drink, so I took it upon myself and upgraded him to a large. He tells me he only wants a medium. I insist that he take a large. He doesn't want one and tells the guy to make it a medium anyway. So a little later, halfway through the movie, he runs out of soda and grabs mine. He literally chugs like more than half of it and I lost it. I screamed at him in the theatre, "Get your own drink! You should have gotten a large like I said." And everybody looked at us. He says it was very embarrassing and uncalled for in public. I agreed to an extent, but it was the last straw for me. So, am I the arsehole? Now, I'm always someone that comes into a story that and thinks, there's always a better way to approach things. But hold up, don't get on my back yet. I agree with OP on this one. I totally agree. I think that would drive me absolutely insane. If I saw someone reaching over to my plate, let me tell you, it'll be kicking off. And I don't think it's just about, basically stealing your food in this situation either. I think it's more than that, the way he plays down your feelings, like when you raised it with him and he just says it's not that big of a deal. So he's not going to change. So where'd you go from here? I think that decision is going to be on you. And I think if it was me in that situation and someone played down my feelings after I raised those concerns and they're not willing to change, it does make you think, doesn't it? But the violent goth says, why are you with this guy? He has no respect for your boundaries, belittles you and your feelings, and refuses to compromise. Not the arsehole. Dump him for your own sanity. And Andante79 says, not the arsehole. This would drive me insane. I'm all for sharing food, when that is the plan. But if you tell me you're not hungry, then take my fries? Nope. It is reasonable boundary to be able to eat your own food. His passive aggressive, I thought we shared things, is garbage way of saying, I don't care that this bothers you. I'm not saying that this is breakup worthy, but this is absolutely worth a serious talk. Not in a food thefting moment, but when the emotions aren't as high. And Disney Freak says, not the arsehole. He sounds unbearable and narcissistic. Options for fixing this: 1. Start taking his food and drinks to see how he reacts. 2. Leave him. It's not worth it. He doesn't respect you. And Indie Eye says, not the arsehole. He has a problem, and honestly, I'd break up with him over it. He has no respect for boundaries or simple empathy. Plus that dismissiveness. Yikes. But that's just me. You feel free to evaluate if it's worth the hassle being in a relationship with this man. Also, Joey doesn't share food. And Little Lightcap says, not the arsehole. I don't know this man, but I hate him and everything he stands for. And Fraggedy Frick says, not the arsehole, and dump the motherfucker already. There's no bigger red flag than you telling a partner, this is something that matters to me, and then responding, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal to you if he doesn't care. Then he shouldn't be with you. And now, with all that being said, what are your thoughts? And let's move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Mental Painting 815. Am I the arsehole for vomiting loudly while pregnant and disturbing my neighbour? I am pregnant and have a lot of morning sickness. There are days when I throw up multiple times a day. I live in an apartment building with thin walls. I can hear my neighbour's shower conversations at times. My neighbour knocked on my door and said she could hear my loud puking all the time, and she has a gag reflex when she hears people throwing up. She said she has almost thrown up after hearing me. She asked if I would run water, play music, and turn on my bathroom fan before I puke. I'm in my first trimester, and I haven't even told my family that I'm pregnant yet, so I didn't really want to share with my neighbour. But it seemed like she was implying that I was purposely making myself vomit, so I felt like I had to explain. I told her I was sorry to bother her, that I had morning sickness, and would try to turn on my fan before I got sick. I also told her that my nausea can come on quickly, so no promises. She didn't seem happy with this, but said okay and left. So I've been turning on my fan when I can and trying to be quiet, but this is honestly stressful. My neighbour knocked on my door yesterday and said she still heard me and would be talking to management if I didn't stop. I was exhausted and over it, so I told her okay then and closed the door. I feel like I've done what I reasonably can do, but am I the arsehole? No, you're dealing with morning sickness, something that you can't control, and you've done your best to try and cover it up with the fan as well and accommodate that, and they're still complaining. No, they can help themselves, put on some headphones, do something that can cover the noise up themselves. Why do you have to cater to them and they can't help themselves in this situation? Seems like they just want to complain for the sake of it. And don't get me wrong, I do have empathy both sides here. I don't know if the neighbour has some sort of vomit phobia. I'm not sure what it's called. I have to Google that afterwards. I do have empathy for anyone who has that or any kind of phobia because, but I'm not sure if that's the case in this situation. But I do have empathy towards that. But they can fix this themselves if they really want to by, having music themselves. Why does OP have to do it every single time? And I think in this situation, I would tell neighbour, yeah, you go talk to management and see what they say, because I'm damn sure they would back OP up in this situation. And Porty Lover says, not the arsehole, her request is unreasonable. It's also part of apartment living. The shit is noisy. Congrats on your pregnancy and worry about caring for you and your baby. Put your neighbour into the fuck those guys box where she belongs. And Dio55 says, put it in the fuck it bucket and move on. ETA, not the arsehole. And Northern Lit Up says, not the arsehole, your neighbour can take a hike. If she doesn't want to hear anything, then she should turn on her music. Just play it all day. Heck of a lot easier than you pausing on the way to the bathroom to just provide some white noise. She's ridiculous. And Violent Goth says, not the arsehole. I have misophonia, and the sound of balls, footballs, basketballs being hit and hitting walls and floors does my head in and makes me crying angry. Have I asked my neighbour's kids to stop playing? No, I wear headphones. Tell her you can't control your bodily functions, especially now, so it's on her to come up with a solution. Also, I'd recommend going to your landlord/manager and explain this neighbour is harassing you about non-excessive noise in your own apartment. And we have one more from Mountain Girl 60 saying, not the arsehole, you have a legitimate medical condition. Yes, legally it is a condition. Your neighbour is being unreasonable as you cannot control morning sickness. You can try eating or not eating certain things, but that may or may not help. It was pizza for me with my first. But there is nothing the landlord can do or make you do. But you can let him, her, them know that if the neighbour continues to harass you and cause you stress, and you then experience any pregnancy complications, they will be hearing from an attorney. Most likely this will result in the neighbour being instructed to turn on her fan, water or music if this bothers her so much. You're trying what you can to alleviate the situation. She is doing nothing but harass you, and legally it is incumbent in complainers that they at least have their attempt to help fix the situation. Also instruct the landlord to not disclose your condition outside of dealing with the neighbour, and for them to instruct the neighbour not to disclose your condition to anyone else, as you wish your medical information to be kept private. Explain that the only reason that you even told the neighbour in the first place was so that they'd understand why you have been sick, that it is not something you can control. But you wish to be the one to inform others of your pregnancy when you're ready to do so. I'm sorry you're having such a tough first trimester, but I have my fingers crossed for you that as you progress, things will get easier. You take care of yourself as you need to. Your neighbour needs to back up and remember that you are growing a human being right now, so your body really is not exactly in your control. Best of luck. And now we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Am I the Arsehole Beatus? Am I the arsehole for shaming my sister for offering to breastfeed my baby? So I'll get straight to it. I have an 8-month-old and a 2-year-old. My sister has a 3-month-old, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Her best friend has a 3-year-old and a newborn. I don't know exactly how old the baby is. All 3 of us breastfeed. The difference is my sister extended breastfeed. All 3 of her kids are still feeding, and her friends are still feeding also. I weaned my oldest at a year and I plan to do the same with my younger one. They also wet nurse for each other. Is that the correct terminology? So one of them will have all the kids and feed them while the other one goes partying or something. Their older kids don't really care who they get milk from, and even if they are together, they sometimes won't feed from their own mums. Anyway, we are all at a family get together and I was complaining about not being able to go out with my friends because I'm still breastfeeding. I made a joke about switching my baby to formula so she could stay with our parents. Older sister, Mama 7, agreed and said she'd have the baby if I wanted. My other sister stepped in and said that she'd have the baby and could nurse her so I didn't have to switch her. I guess I looked a little gross out because then she added that she could also feed her pumped breast milk instead. I declined and kept talking to my sister about formulas. I am genuinely thinking about switching my daughter over, so it wasn't intended to make my sister uncomfortable. After a while she came back over and added, "You can just say no, or that it weirds you out. You don't have to try and make me uncomfortable." To which I replied, and here's where I may be the arsehole. Yeah, it fucking weirds me out, it's creepy and I don't like it, but you do you. I wasn't aiming anything I said in your direction. She got kind of stiff and her friends packed up their kids and left. Her friends giving me the stink eye. My parents approached me later saying how I was rude and disrespectful and that there was no need to shame her and needed to apologise for upsetting her. I disagreed. I basically told her what she wanted to hear. I don't think I shamed her at all, just not my preference. I now realise I was harsher than needed, but I'm still not sure if I'm the one in the wrong. I was just telling the truth, but she's not talking to me or our parents, so I come to you. Am I the arsehole? Edit, I guess I left out some info. After the initial thing of her coming over and offering, I shook my head no and thanked her for the offer, which is why I was snarky. I already said no and she brought it up again. And we'll start straight away with Jaded Cryptographer saying, "You're the arsehole, don't pretend you're not trying to shame her when you call her creepy. It's easy enough to just decline her offer without calling her names." And Stronger Than You Know says, "You're the arsehole, she asked, didn't force, she didn't do anything, and your discomfort is likely based on you being raised in modern society. Historically, this was common and it's not gross. It's actually good for your baby's immune system, and she was offering you a valid solution." The Final Frontier says, "You're the arsehole, I think. Your sister offered and you're well within your rights to not be comfortable with it and saying no, but I don't see why you felt the need to tell her it was gross or why you think it's disgusting. Wet nurses are common in many cultures, and many parents avail the services of wet nurses if they want their baby to feed on breast milk but for whatever reason are unable to provide it naturally for themselves. Ignoring all that, even if you think it's weird, I see no reason why you need to be judgy about how your sister and her friends chose to bring up their children. And Sad Silver says you're the arsehole. From your description, she clearly wasn't 100% sure what your answer was and just wanted clarification. You could have just said, I appreciate the offer, but no thank you. To say it's creepy and then try to back off and say, but you do you, is disingenuous. Overlord Pancake says, sounds like you've been wanting to call her creepy for a while and found an opportunity to do so. The Kelsey says, you seriously couldn't have found a nicer way to say it? Yeah, you're the arsehole and you know it. You don't have to agree with what she is doing for her kids, but there was literally no reason to shame her for it. I assume you like your sister and your comment was uncalled for. And Miss Sonderbar says, everyone sucks here. You declined at first. She could have left it at that, but instead came back spoiling for a fight, which she got. She should have approached you again and you should have called the words. Also, you'll need to read the post again. She dropped it after declining and the wet nurse sister came back to attack her more. And we'll have one more from Saluki Queen saying, you're the arsehole. She was trying to help and you made a face and then called her creepy. I wouldn't have accepted her offer either, but there was zero maliciousness about her interaction, so your response was uncalled for. A simple, it's not for me, but I appreciate you trying to help, would have worked too. And now, what do you think of today's stories? What are your verdicts on today's stories if you choose to share them? But as always, never any pressure to do so either. But I always love to hear them. It helps with the channel. And if you have enjoyed today's stories as well, please don't forget to hit that like button. As I always say, it massively helps this channel. And if you want to support the channel further, you absolutely can, but never any pressure to do so by clicking that join button down below for YouTube or clicking the link in description for Patreon and joining up there. Thank you once again for your love, your time and your support. It means the absolute world to me, and I will see you, hopefully, in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.